Hello, coffee culture family. Today, I am with a very special guest. He's one half of BizBros. His name is Luis Camijo, and I probably didn't even pronounce it correctly. I'll let him say it right. But I am going to let him do a bit of an introduction because he has a very special energy about him, and we're going to hear about his origin story and how he got to be Biz Bros. But hello, Luis. I'm going to let you do a little intro. How are you?
Yeah. Hey, Holly, how are you? And thank you for having me in your amazing platform. And yeah, absolutely. So I'm Luis, the better half of the Biz Bros, for those wondering. So Biz Bros is just really me and my brother. That was like the first business that we started about 7 years ago. It has evolved quite a bit. So that's the name. There's a story behind the name. We can get into that later. But currently, what we do is we have a podcasting and content agency, and we also have an amazing show called Content is Profit, which Holly will be guest, and we're gonna learn all about her. But yeah, we've been involved in media for a bunch of years now, and yeah, this is what we do. We just create platforms and have fun in front of cameras. That's a fast version of it.
I love that. I love it. So, what I want to do is I want to go back to around 2010 because I understand that's around the time that you came from Venezuela over to the US on, I believe, a soccer scholarship. So, maybe can I take you back in time and ask you to share that part?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's funny, we were in an event a couple of years back, and we're sharing all these stories. And people are like, wait, like, how old are you? And I was 30 at the time. And my life in the US started when I'm 21. And we have all these Venezuelan crazy stories that happen on this in the soccer world, right? But when that ended in a way where we were looking for a new opportunity, right, in the United States. And part of it is we've been training for years and years to be professional soccer players. That was our dream. And I got the chance to play in Italy and to play in Spain. And we went back to our home, which was Venezuela, and they were not the political situation was not the best, right? And for the dreams and the aspirations that we had, we're like, well, maybe we have to go and find a different way to get those achieved. We saw opportunities just being shut down left and right in our country, sadly. But that presented an opportunity, and we decided that we were going to record ourselves playing some soccer and scoring some goals. And we created this real video, and we ended up sending it in a cold email to all the coaches on D1, D2, and D3 in the United States. So we cold email every single coach with a pitch.
Brilliant.
And here's our video, and here's the thing, and here are our grades. And we use an academy to do our SATs, and there's an English test called TOEFL. So we had all that ready, and we emailed everybody. And I was very lucky that I got two offers. One of them was in Florida, and the guy that was kind of guiding us through the process, he's like, man, this is a D1 school in Florida. You have to go. And to me, that meant nothing, right? I had no idea what a D1 school, D2 school meant, but I'm like, sounds good. I guess I have an aunt in Tampa. I guess I'll be able to go see her. But and that's how really this adventure started. So that led to an amazing 4 years in college, meeting my wife in college, playing the sport I love in college. And then that started the thought process on building our own company and our own thing from those 4 years. So yeah, that was really the start of BizBros in a sense.
That's amazing. I love how I don't know, inventive you guys were with your cold email and your video and everything. I feel like nowadays people need to maybe think outside of the box, maybe even go old school again on certain things because we're so inundated with social media and things happening that if you don't break out of the box, like if you don't do something really incredibly different to get attention, it's really hard to get noticed, but, so I love that you did that, by the way.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, I'm not gonna lie, I have to give credit to our dad at the time, right? Like, he's a no excuse kind of guy. And you can get pretty defeated when you don't know the process and you don't know how things work, and that can be very overwhelming. And he's like, let's just go straight to the source, right? Let's just go, who's making the decision? The coach. Let's just find out who, like, what email can we send this, and we'll start doing it, consistently every single day. And to this day, that's a lesson that we take, right? Especially, like you mentioned on social media, it can be very overwhelming. Just the fact that you open your phone and you're trying to, interact with your audience, and you get distracted, and an hour later you're like, wow, I'm still on my phone. What's happening? That's on like the consumer side, but also on the building the relationship side or the business side. Same thing. Like, how are you unique, right? How's your message unique? How are you different from everybody else? And that has been a journey that has been really interesting in the last 3 years, especially with the podcast, on how can we be ourselves, be comfortable with ourselves, and sharing, our message, and just reach out. And that's how we connected over in LinkedIn. It was a message, and we're like, wow, there's some synergies here. Let's connect, let's continue the conversation, and maybe some things happen, right? And are we brave enough to actually go do that? And there's amazing people that are doing it. There's also amazing people that just need that little nudge to start doing it.
Well, I have a lot of respect for you for, first of all, like, listening to your father and understanding, like, that he might have some insight into this area that you didn't. And you took his advice, and it really did pay off. And I will say to people, I get hit up in my DMs on LinkedIn all the time.
Yeah.
And I always try to respond to people, and usually it's, I feel bad. I'm letting people down because they're always asking for the chat, the virtual chat, can we catch up? Or I connect with them and they immediately send me a pitch, which I call pitch slap, because they haven't gotten to
The
know
pitch.
me. Yeah. There's no connection made. They've made no effort to, like, look at, my content, maybe leave some comments and start to develop a relationship in engagement using what it's for.
Yeah.
And so 9 times out of 10, maybe even more than that, I say no to people for that virtual chat. I don't really have the time. Like, I'm
Yeah.
busy. I'm really super busy. And those virtual chats with strangers around the world can really fill up your time. And I did that during COVID. I was much more liberal in doing that because,
Yeah.
we were all trying to find a way to connect then, but I can't do it now. But there was something about your energy, Luis, and there was something about your delivery. You've carried through even from when you first did your applications for those D1 schools. Like, you've carried through it a certain piece of you in it that didn't feel as corporate. I can't quite explain it, and I'm not going to tell anybody what you did on my DM because I don't want them to mimic it, because that's why we're here. That's why we're here. And
Thank you.
honestly, you might be one of 2 people I actually took up on an interview for people who reached out to get to know me. So, you're doing it right.
Awesome. Thank you. I'm honored. Thank you. I really appreciate it. Yeah. And I mean, if you're on LinkedIn, you'll probably get those messages, right? For those that are listening every single day, right? So same thing.
Every
It's
day.
like, okay, how can we create connection? Early in our journey with publishing, we understood the power of our relationship, right? And it's okay. Like, we've developed relationships from 2 years ago, 3 years ago, that today we continue to be connected, and there might be an opportunity, right? Like, my brother, one of the things that he says is like, our ultimate goal is to make a ton of friends, right? At the end of the day, do we really want to work or engage with the people that we enjoy being around? And at the beginning, we had such a negative experience trying to be somebody that we were not. And then we ended up working with people that we didn't really enjoy working with. And it was just a lot of drag, a lot of friction. So we made a decision. We're like, okay, you know what? From this day on, we're just going to be ourselves everywhere, on our DMs, in our social media outreach, in our content, in the things that we say. And I think that has been very empowering. It was very scary at the time, right? Because we don't really know what that looks like. But you start hearing feedback and things like what you just said, and it's amazing. So I really encourage everybody, right? Like, what is that unique thing? And just don't be scared to go put that message out there. And obviously there's a tactical version of this, and leverage of technology and how you can do these things. But at the end of the day, we said, right, this is us doing the DMs. There's a reason sometimes I spent like 2 months, maybe I don't respond, but when I respond, I'll be like, I am so, so sorry. Like it was literally me. I was busy with my 4-year-old, my 1-year-old, and I have no sleep. So anyways, but here I'm present now. If you are down to chat, let's do it. But yeah, so thank you for recognizing that. I really
Yeah.
appreciate
Yeah,
it.
he's not getting any sleep, but he put a trampoline in last weekend,
Oh.
and so his kids are getting, like, nice and exhausted, from playing on there, and they're sleeping better, so he might have just figured out the trick for all new parents. Go get a
Go get a
trampoline.
trampoline. Yeah.
I love that. So, I want to share with people what you're doing now, but you didn't start there. And you started with a screen printing business, if I'm not mistaken. And because we've all iterated and innovated and shifted and pivoted for the past 2 years or so,
Yeah.
it's not uncommon for any of us to have changed what we did. I mean, I was doing, marketing and business strategy and working contracts and leading task force in the boutique industry,
Yeah.
in hospitality specifically. And then I was on the user experience side and building content and started a podcast. Now, eh, they're different, like we all had to do what we had to do in April 2020. So, do you want to take us like a little bit on a journey so we can understand how you got from there to here?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'll say what we do now, and then we'll go back and be like, wow, like these guys are a little crazy. But so obviously what we have now, like our main platform is a podcast called Content is Profit. Like that's our baby. We've done more than 420 episodes. We do them live 3 times a week, and it's just been an incredible journey of self-discovery, building relationships, talking to people like Holly, right? And we've been very blessed that Hotspot believed in us, so we're part of their network, and that has been like the main thing that we've done over the last 3 years. And then on the back end, we do have a content production agency, right? That can look in many ways, but we help people publish consistently and increase revenue. So that's like the main core thing that we do. How we got there? Oh boy. So it started right, like I graduated in 2014 from college, and had no idea really what I wanted to do, but I knew that I didn't want to go into a corporate job. For some reason, I saw it very negatively. My friends at the time that were being graduated, the city I'm in, there's a lot of logistics and banking, and that's not the thing that really attracted me. I was always, doing side gigs, or I was like coordinating high ropes course and doing like active things. So I never really saw myself in that environment. So I was like, okay, well, let's just get a job somewhere where I have time and I have a resource of time to try to figure out this thing, right? And I was very lucky that my girlfriend at the time, now wife, was very supportive of me, and she's like, go do your thing. You enjoy. So that led to screen printing, like you said, but we started with vinyl stickers. So we ended up buying this machine and we started cutting vinyl in one of the extra rooms that we had in our house. I had 6 roommates. It was a 7-bedroom, and it was a little bit of a crazy time in our lives, but we were having a blast, and we will literally call like and knock on the doors of these local businesses, be like, hey, do you want this $20 sticker? And that's how we started to build these local relationships. That evolved into screen printing. We went to an event once where you actually needed to be a legit business to get in, and proof of that was a website. And we're in this line to actually get into this event, and our website was not up. And we had a roommate at the time who was our partner here, and he was really tech savvy. So we noticed like we had 4 people ahead of us about to go into the event. One gets denied because the website was not up, and we're like, oh boy, we have the tickets. We like, what's the thing missing? And we see my roommate in his phone just trying to figure out the website thing, and he got like a version of it up. And then as soon as we step in, he like shows it to the lady and be like, okay, you're good. And then we went in.
Oh my God.
That was such an amazing experience because we were exposed to the industry on those sites. It was an expo called Surf Expo in Orlando. And we met up a bunch of manufacturers and people who got to ask a ton of questions, learning a lot. So that's what we decided to do. And as we were building a relationship with small businesses and selling them a bunch of t-shirts for events for 5Ks and these things, people started asking, what else do you guys do? And my brother was tinkering with cameras at the time. And he's like, well, we're doing these videos. And he showed kind of like something that he did at home. He's like, can you do that for like our 5K? or race or an event? And we're like, sure. And so that's how content started. We will go to these events and start recording them, editing them, and sending it back. And then we decided that the t-shirt business was not our thing because we have this machine in our garage in Florida, 90-degree weather, 80% humidity. So I was a studio manager. I was a fitness manager at the time. So we'll come from like my end of the day about 8 p.m. And then we will be screen printing t-shirts till 2 a.m., 3 a.m. And it was just a little hectic. So we decided that that's not the thing that we wanted. And we shifted because we're developing a brand at the time with that. And we're like, we're learning all these things. I think we can help other businesses do it. And our tagline at the time was, we're the anti-marketing agency. And people are like, wait, what? And we're like, well, what's your marketing agency doing now? And they'll tell us, right? And they'll be like, well, my frustration is X. And we're like, awesome, we can help you solve that. And we will like literally go ahead and figure out how to help them in that way. And this was like smaller
Perfect.
businesses like gyms and chiropractors and dentists. And that part of it, we started building funnels, email campaigns, and things to help them generate that revenue. And then on the back end, they were like, oh my gosh, but we need to create more content. We need to be in control of our message. How do we actually do that? So we started building these frameworks to help them record that. And we will show up on their location. We'll record the kind of content that they wanted to record and do it. And that was really the start of it. And then COVID happened. And then when COVID happened, all these businesses closed. Within a week, we lost about 85% of our sales and our monthly recurring
Ouch.
revenue. Yes, it was really painful. I went into a crisis mode. My brother almost slapped me twice in the face. He told me, go take a walk. I was like the spreadsheet guy. So when we came back, we're like, well, what do we have now? We have time right now. We're not working on this project. We're freelancing at the time. We had no team. And we're like, you know what? I think it's start for us to start the podcast and putting our voice out there and do these things. And keep in mind, for like a year now, we were publishing all Facebook Lives internally for us. And we were able to launch the show. And immediately, right after, we were able to develop one key relationship in the first 20 episodes that led to a very big opportunity. And we're like, wow, this is a really cool way to find the people that you really want to work with and do that. So after that experience, we were like, this is where we're doubling down. And things started to move forward. And, 3 years later, here we are.
It's amazing. And, I don't want to preach the power of podcasting because it's not really what this particular show is about. People can find that out from my book or somebody else's book. But, I tell people all the time, podcasting, if you have a strategy, the right strategy, you can fashion your show to be seen as a thought leader and get
Yeah.
yourself on stages and make some really interesting relationships. You also could do a focus on bringing interviews in with businesses you want to partner with. You know, you
Yeah.
could be very strategic. You could use it as a sales funnel. So, like, I think a lot of people don't realize how powerful the platform is. But we'll stop there on that. What I want to point out, and this is something that I learned from you, um, you stayed hyper local when everything kind of went awry, and you lost all that business. Um, and I think, my show is a lot about connection, right? Like why
Yeah.
we meet up. We want to be with people, right?
Mhm.
And people started meeting up and trying to find communities, trying to find their tribe, whether it was on Facebook or at their church with their mask on, or some sort of outdoor activity like everybody joins for like an outdoor yoga or something like that. We're always seeking connection. And
Yeah.
and during that time and thereafter, more than ever, I believe. And I think what was so powerful, what you had shared with me, was how you really, um, while you were building what you did, you really worked on the community side of it. Like you recognized that you could help people even locally. And so I wanted to sort of lean in on that side of connection because I think
Yeah.
that's part of your sweet spot and part of why people love you guys
Mhm.
and why you were able to slide into other people's inboxes so easily because it's who you are. Like you said, we're just going to have fun. Like we're just going to be genuine in who we are. You know how to connect, Luis. So
Thank you.
how do you tell me about that a little bit? Let me
Yeah.
just drop that there. You go.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, initially the hyper local thing was because we were dealing with physical locations. So, as a studio manager at the time, I was very lucky that I was in a high-end fitness studio. So, a lot of the members were local business owners, right? So, part of my job was to build that relationship with them when they were coming in and, sweating away all their worries. And I was able to just become friends with a lot of people, right? So, we were always having this project on the side where people started asking questions and be like, hey, by the way, like this is something that my brother might be doing for somebody else. You should try it. Right. And then we started building this trust. They would try, they'll get results. And I'm like, oh my God, they'll come back. And in a business way, we saw opportunity there. But at the end of the day, it's like, how am I serving the person that I'm talking to? Like, what value can I provide? And we have this analogy. I love it. It's the cookie analogy. I don't know if we talked about this earlier, but it's like, if you have a kid, right, you grab him and bring him to the kitchen, right? And if you have some cookies, some, chip ahoys or whatever, like, Girl Scout cookies, you give that kid a cookie, right? And I'll use Luca, my son, my 4-year-old, as an example. So I'll grab Luca and be like, hey, here's one cookie for you. And he'll be like super excited, right? He'll be, oh my gosh, thank you so much. And they'll be like, hey, here's another cookie, right? 2 cookies. And be like, what? This is so good. And they'll be like, here's a 3rd cookie. Right. And for him, that's very valuable. And he'll like grab him here, salivate. He's like, I'm going to about to eat him. And then be like, oh, hold on. Let me grab one of those cookies. So I'll grab one cookie and he'll be like a little like confused, but then he'll be
Like,
like, oh,
what?
I still have I still have 2 cookies. So I'm still happy. Right. Then what happens, right, in that situation where if I give him 1 cookie and be like, oh, this is so exciting. Here's your cookie. And then I'll be like, oh, but wait, let me grab that cookie and then eat it. He won't be happy at all. He'll throw a fit. Right. So this analogy cookie is the same as when are we providing value to the people and the relationships that we're having. So in that specific case inside of the studio, what was happening is I was giving them tips and things that I thought that would help them because it was helping other people that were similar and they were going and executing and then they'll come back, be like, what else? And we will give them something else and they'll execute on that. What else? Right. Now that this gives me an ability or the permission to go for an ask and be like, hey, by the way, like if this is helping, will you be open to a meeting with me and my brother about this thing? Right. And that led to so many opportunities. Right. So it was like a lot about like cookie, and then, an ask. Right. So what is the cookie that you're giving that person? And then we saw that we were getting a lot of traction and a lot of conversations. And at the time we were trying to figure out what really we wanted to do, right? In a sense, like what's intrinsic for us, what makes us feel good, what serves the client. So when we decided to do the jump full time for BizBros and the agency, that was the same approach that we ended up doing, right? And we're like, okay, how can we provide value? And then when we lost all that business because of the situation that the country was in, right? A lot of businesses were like, it's just, we don't know what's going to happen in the next 3-4 months. So, this paycheck that we're giving you guys, there's a lot of value conversation in there, right? We're like, this is not the right time to stop communicating with your community, right? Like this is when you have to double down. But even though when they were canceling, we send them with like a framework and a recipe, like here's how you can add value on your own time and here's how you can leverage it. And that was incredible because when everything opened back up, they came back and be like, hey guys, like we're ready to come back. And this kept us kind of engaging with those people. So again, more cookies, right? Like when is an opportunity where I can give them a cookie full of value and then that will give me permission, to go and do an ask. So when we launched the show, that was the whole concept. We were like, okay, we're going to do interviews 3 times a week, right? For us, it's great because we build on one side authority, relevancy, and trust. And again, we're talking podcasting, but this can be a video. This can be an Instagram live. This could be like a one conversation, a connection conversation. And then on that podcast, we're providing value because the person that comes into it, in their perspective, that is value to them. So then we'll refer them to somebody. And then after that, our ask is simply, hey, will you be open to learn a little bit more about what we do? And you'll be surprised, right? So it was behind that cookie concept that we built this amazing platform. And I encourage every single one, like you mentioned earlier in your DMs, it's like, oh my gosh, all these people, the pitch slap, right? It's like right off the bat. It's like they give you that cookie and then they take it away real fast. So again, if we're going to talk hyper local, it's the same thing. It's like, what is something that I can provide that can help that person? Is it a connection, right? Is it information that is going to lead them and give them an awesome result? Is it just a really cool conversation with no sales pitch, right? Like there's so many ways that we can do this, And that's how we were able to build initially like our hyper local, Jacksonville community of the people that we helped and serve. And that evolved quite a bit. And that's how we replicated it on the online world. And for us, our playground was Facebook initially. So which it's the same framework, same things, like how much value can I actually provide? And a lot of people are very scared of like, oh my gosh, I'm just going to tell them everything. I'm like, sure, why not? If it's going to help them, right? There's going to be an opportunity where you can also ask something back.
Mhm.
So that was a little bit, hopefully I answered your question.
You did. The whole marketing side of me is, which I think we talked about before, is like, is coming through right now. And so what I want to tell you is that I think it's Oreo cookies that let you do, um, put like your logo or your name or something on the
Yeah.
cookies where you could do BizBros. And I think you should send to all your clients a
Or you
box of Oreo cookies for Christmas.
I will eat them all before. And I am addicted to Oreo cookies. And if you put
I
a
am
glass of milk
too.
next to me, oh boy, like that's it. They'll be destroyed. So
It's funny. I'm so snooty about my cookies now because I live in a city where I have access to like all of these really great little entrepreneurial shops and
oh, that's
making like
awesome.
these beautiful cookies, like all different kinds. My favorite being Levon, although they're a little bigger now. They're in a few cities, but
Yeah.
um yeah, I'm down for Oreo cookies too, though, like it's just
Yes.
something that takes you right back with
I
those,
love it.
right?
I love it. Yeah. Oh, great idea. It ties down to the story so well. That's so
So
cool.
so let's see. I would like to find out. So you and your brother have your podcast together. So what are you on the community side and he's on the tech? Like where's the divide on there? Or do you both do everything?
Yeah, good question. So at the beginning of like our journey, we were both doing everything at the same time together, right? It's like we would jump on a call, we would both be on the call. Like we will go in a meeting, we would both go in a meeting. And I remember through those relationships, we ended up going to a mastermind. And in the middle of like one of the speeches that we looked at each other, we're like, we're I don't think we're too smart right now. Like we're wasting so much time and expertise, right? He's very creative, right? He's the idea guy. He comes out, he loves to do research. He loves to like go in and deep dive into topics and all these things, right? And he is great with people as well, but I think I lean more into that, right? So I lean more into the conversations. I lean more into building that relationship. I love the operational side. So on my side, I will build the back end of our admin side. Like, what is the project management tool that we're going to use? What is the process? What is the system? Right. So at the time, we're trying to identify again what was the market fit for what we were doing, but also as a relationship with him, with my work partner in a sense, and he's actually my real brother. Right. We're trying to figure out like what was our role, and that took a couple of years and a lot of tries, right? And we have these amazing conversations with entrepreneurs that might have a partner in crime, right? Or they're married and they're doing business with their spouse. And a lot of the questions is like, how do you guys working together in a sense? So on the podcast specifically, to your question, we decided, we just sat down one day and be like, okay, what are all the tasks? What are all the things that we need to do to release this podcast? From asking the person to come all the way to the end. So there's some tasks that we both do. So asking people is like, if he sees somebody that could be a really cool fit, he'll go and he'll have that conversation and he'll do it. But we both don't have to be there, right? It will multiply in time. And then I will trust 100% his judgment of the person that he's coming, just like he trusts my judgment with the person that comes. After that, there's a series of tasks that initially was like, oh yeah, I'm free, I'll do it. Or you're free, you do it. But now it's very specific. Now it's like, from this time to this time, it's post-production. There are certain steps. And, it changed from where it was just me and him to now we do have a team. So now what does the team do? We free some time. But yes, if we're gonna get a specific, at the time, we love to have control of our show. Our show is live. So there's little to no post-production on the back end except for the micro content. So we set it up that way because when we identify those tasks, we're like, well, we cannot spend a whole hour editing this podcast because we have other things to do and we want to make sure. So that became kind of like the brand, and we structure it in a way where when we do the interview, and you'll experience this, where everything is laid out already. So when all he has to do is just grab the files and put them in the computer, maybe do some clipping in here and there, but it's very, very efficient. So I encourage people, like in the things that you're doing right now, in your relationship with, your partner, whatever, have you done first like a time audit? Have you done like have you taken the time to like just label all the tasks for a specific project that you might be doing? And if it's two of you and there's some like overlapping, how can you divide that based on what you like to do? So I manage all the back end of the podcast. He manages all the front end of the podcast because he's a creative guy. And I trust 100% of what he's going to put out is great. And he trusts 100% of what I'm going to build is going to be effective. So that has been a journey, not going to lie, continues, right? There's here and there, but it's been super interesting, right? And we've taken that to other parts of the business and other parts in our private lives as well.
I love that. I think in business, this is a really great takeaway for any entrepreneurs out there. It's what do you specialize in? Because if you do everything, there's probably 100% chance that you'll do a mediocre job at everything. But if you know what your sweet spot is, if you know where you shine and you can focus on that, then you can delegate the other things. And delegating is really, really hard for entrepreneurs, which is why you guys probably you had a lot of overlap for so long, because
Yeah.
it's hard to let go of things. Well, I know how to do that. I'm just going to do it. I can get it done quickly. I'll just quickly do it.
Yeah.
But you quickly do that and it rolls into something else that you need to do, and it rolls into something else, or you have a problem technically and it sets you back because it's not what you specialize in.
Yeah.
So you're never going to do every step of the journey well. And I think that that is probably the hardest lesson for entrepreneurs. So I think that that's a really great takeaway, a really great lesson that you shared, that you have to literally make a checklist of every step that you take in your work and decide, what parts am I going to do and what parts am I going to outsource? And there's a lot of outsourcing technology now with, Fiverr and Contra and like all of these different places you could go and find very
Yeah.
inexpensive, good quality help. Believe it or not, they both exist in the
Yeah.
same person. You just need to make that effort to find it so that you can really do what you do well. Because if you are the community person and you're really good with people and your reach out is spot on and your conversations or your interviews are beautiful, well, you probably should not be editing the video, because that takes a hella long time, regardless of how good you are at it. Right. So I think that makes
Absolutely.
sense.
Yeah, no, 100%. And the number one problem that we see in our community with the people that we support and we help is consistency. Like at the end of the day, right? Consistency is the mother of everything, right? Like if we're not consistent, we cannot measure anything else. So, especially like in the content world, right? Just producing it, a lot of people start doing it themselves because they think they might enjoy the process, right? And then all of a sudden you start finding out the things that really dragged you, that maybe are a little bit of a friction point, right? For me, it was editing 100%. I'm not an editor, right? Like I won't go there at all. So to me, it's like, okay, how can I find either a tool that can help me speed up this process and make it easier, right? Or a person that can help you do that. So, and that I think applies with everything. And I remember being in an event where it was another one of those light bulb moments, and it was okay, what are the things that you do, and rate them from 1 to 10, right? So if you can get them initially to like a 6, right, that in your mind that will be probably a 10, but in the out world that might look like a 6. As soon as you identify that and you do a time study on it, we're like, how long, what resources am I using on this, right? Maybe you can find that tool or that person that can elevate that from a 6 to a 10, right? So you'll get that process all the way to a 6. You document that process, and then you plug somebody in or a tool that can help you make it faster and better. And then you'll see, you let them fly, right? Which to me personally was so hard, right? Like we spent like the first like 3 years, not this podcast, but before, right, trying to figure out content. And it was because we were trying to do it all ourselves. And the second we plugged in that first person, who for us in our process is the person that scans the information and selects the clips of information that are valuable to our audience, right? We're going through the video and trying to figure this out. It just added a ton of friction in my life, and I was not enjoying it. I was like, if this continues, the podcast stops. But the podcast is an amazing tool for us to build relationships and build our business. So it cannot stop. So how do we figure this one out? So that was our first hire, the person that will go through that content and identify that. That process has evolved quite a bit, but he enjoys every second of it. He does it remotely in anywhere in the world where he's at. And I don't understand how he loves it so much, but you'll find people that will love the task that you don't enjoy to do. And that was a huge realization. And then as soon as that happened, we start seeing opportunity everywhere. Right. And, if we want to take it to a real life, I just saw a clip of somebody with like, yeah, I do have a house assistant. Right. And he goes into the house assistant type of deal. And for him, cooking and cleaning and doing all these things, he has a family. He's like, my time is better spent with my kids, enjoying time with my kids, doing X. Right. And that's his perspective. And I totally understand it. And he's like, well, I do have the resources. So now we have a house assistant that helps with tasks in the house. She enjoys doing it. She's part of the family now, and I get to enjoy my time with my family. So it's like, okay, well, that concept, can we apply it in every single stage? And on the personal side, I know that if by the way, this happened. I went to my wife, I'm like, babe, we need somebody to come and do this. And for her, the value in our relationships is me taking the initiative and doing the thing. So we also have to recognize what is the value, right, in the relationships that we're offering. So there might be some negotiating that needs to happen, but it's also amazing how you can uncover these opportunities and then think a little bit different on how you can take that task from like a 6 to like a 10.
Well, again, another great takeaway, it's really optimizing your time based on your skill and what you love. So if you can focus on what you like, you're obviously going to be extremely efficient and
Yeah.
you're going to get it done. And by letting go of some of the ancillary tasks that you do, it opens your mind up to, well, how can I do what I'm doing better now that I can just focus on my sweet spot? Or did this create room for me to recognize I need something else so that I can maybe have more personal time? Or,
Yeah.
a house assistant is such a great idea. I mean, it doesn't fit for everybody. I get it, because maybe financially it doesn't work.
Yeah.
But the flip side of that, the way you did that is you decided that you you have the energy to get up at 5, even though you have a 4-year-old and a 1-year-old, to get like your workout in and do other things for yourself. So by focusing on what you do best, you know how to use your time wisely, and you know where you can find those pockets so that you can open your life up to some other things. So maybe you didn't get the house assistant, but maybe you got a chance to get your workout in, because that's the core of who you were.
Yeah.
Like, you used to be a fitness instructor, so finding a spot to fit that in is important for your
Yeah.
productivity, right? Like, that's your productivity hack, I bet.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is real story, right? Sometimes we keep these thoughts in our heads, right? And we don't express them, we don't share it. And I remember, to me, cooking is um I'm not gonna say I love it, but like like my wife doesn't cook and I cook the basics, right? So we're done. Like, we're not probably the best parents to feed our children, but here's the thing: like, as soon as we had the children, we had this conversation, and we're like, we need to figure this one out, right? So because she doesn't cook, then I'm like, okay, I'll raise my hand and I'll cook, right? But then we were at my in-laws, and my mother-in-law, wonderful, she's the best. Was part of this conversation, and she's like, I enjoy cooking. Like, she loves it, and she has like a remote job, and she just takes a lot of pride, and she enjoys the process. And she's like, guess what, I'll be honored like to make homemade baby food for your kids. And I was like, wait, what?
Oh
Kelly,
my God, I just got goosebumps.
what are you saying? And she's like, absolutely, I'll do it, right? And then, by the way, just bring him, we'll have breakfast. And we're like, oh my gosh. And just by having that conversation with something that caused friction in our life, right, that was potentially setting us up for a lot of discussions ahead of time, right? Just by having that conversation and finding that person that will take that task from a 6 to a 10, right? And I hate to be like so formal, but by that conversation, our lives have been exponentially easier in a way. And my mother-in-law is happy because she spends a lot of time with the kids. We are happy because they're being fed amazing and delicious and healthy food, right? And to take a step forward, she was like, hey, Luis, I have time because I cook for my family. do you want me to cook something for you? And I'm like, oh my gosh, what are you just saying? And her birthday present to me was 6 months worth of lunches. So, and I'm like,
Mm,
wait, what did you say? And every time I share this story, people are like, oh my gosh, do you like, I
mm,
hate you secretly.
mother-in-law.
But it's amazing. And I, I'm extremely appreciative, and makes her happy, makes me happy, makes my day a lot of like very efficient, right? Makes my kids happy. It's a lot of winning, 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 winning situation. And it just started by having that conversation. And maybe we could have gotten to a different solution, but right now is working, because I was thinking, mate, I think I'm gonna have to go get a meal prep service, right?
Mm.
And she's like, stop, you cannot do that, right? And she's like, what are you talking about? And then she went into, I love doing this, why don't I do that for you? And I'm like, oh my gosh, how can I return that to you
Mm.
tenfold? And she's like, I just want time with my kids. Like, her dream has been to be a grandma. Perfect. There's a lot of time with the kids. We spend a lot of time together. So it just got the relationship a lot better. And I encourage people to find those spaces in either your private life and your business. You'll be surprised. There's a lot of opportunity out there.
That is really, really beautiful. I love that story. And I think sometimes we forget to ask. We're so busy. We're so inundated with work and home life that we just struggle through, right? We struggle and we
Yeah.
push and we just find a way to make it work, but it's never working well.
Yeah.
And if we just lean in on the people that we love, that we connect with, our community doesn't have to be all business. It could be pleasure, it could be our sport, it could be family. It's all the same thing. It's stopping and making maybe a checklist for that with somebody that you trust, like your wife or your partner or your friend. Like,
Absolutely.
this is what I do with my day, and these two spots are just, they don't work for me very well, and this is why. And then people offer ideas. So I'm so proud that you just
Thank
put
you.
yourself out there like that. And it looks like it's paid off, so that's really awesome. Everybody wins, grandma gets more time with the kids, and you get more time maybe with your wife, and you guys get nourishing meals. It's like win, win, win.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm
The
still
only
trying to figure out what was the small print in the deal that we signed.
right, right? I love that. Yeah, you see, I was gonna ask you if you use coffee as a productivity hack, but I like what you ended with, so I think I'm not gonna even go there. Thank you so much, Luis. I'm so glad you came on Coffee Culture and we got to talk a lot about connection and community. This is really awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Holly, for having me, and Coffee Culture. Thank you for having me, and I hope you resonated, and we can be friends one day.
Absolutely. You'll find him in your DMs.
Yes, absolutely. Send me a message if you listen to this episode. Be like, hey, I met you with Holly. Awesome. Yeah,
And
totally, totally
we're
down for
gonna
that.
put all your stuff in the show notes so everybody will know how to reach you. But
Thank you.
go listen to his show and watch his show, Content is Profit, and reach out. So thank you.
Bye, Holly. Thank you.
That's a wrap. Share your thoughts and ideas on coffee culture. You could put them in the reviews on Apple Podcasts or DM me on Instagram. And if you'd like to support an indie podcaster, there is a link in the show notes for buying me a coffee. Please subscribe and share a cup of coffee culture with your friends. This season is produced by Pale Blue Studios.